Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere, and my co-host, Bob's with us today. Hey, Bob, how we doing?
Good, Tom. How are you?
I'm wonderful. We enjoying the nice, warm New England weather we got here, folks? Because I am.
It's freezing cold.
Well, no,
Where are you from?
When I got into the studio, it was 41 degrees.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I did that backwards. It was 14 degrees. Yeah, that's more like it. And so the Paranormal Zone is set up we have people come on from different backgrounds and beliefs in the UFO field, the paranormal field, and every field out there. So today we have a great guest. Bob, why don't you introduce this great guest today?
Yeah, looking at her book, she is it's a fantastic book, which we'll talk about and make sure our listeners know where to get it. But she's a very interesting person and has a great story to tell. Kay Golden, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Kay, let me start off with a question that a lot of our listeners ask us to explain terminology, because I think you recognize, like the rest of us, that sometimes, especially in the UFO realm, people use same terminology, but they mean different things. So can you help us explain to us what a UFO experiencer is?
Sure. So a UFO experiencer is anybody who witnesses a UFO, a craft in the sky, on the ground, or maybe you've had some interaction with a being from one of those crafts, or just some kind of strange phenomenon that occurs from witnessing a craft.
Yeah, so experiencer really means having multiple or the same experience over and over again.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty broad, but it's pretty much anything to do with a UFO or occupant of a UFO.
Right. Now, you've been abducted a number of times. How many times, Kay, have you actually been abducted? Do you recall?
I couldn't give you a pinpoint number because it's been a lifelong thing. There were so many times when I was from a child to teenager to getting older, and then everything kind of came to a head in 2017 in Diamond Bar in September. And then everything that's happened here, I would say at least probably 20 times from this very location I'm in right now.
And we often hear on the podcast abductees that their actual experiences began at a younger age and actually followed through to, middle age and so forth. How old were you when your first recollection of being abducted was?
Well, again, everything kind of came to a head, and it was September 2017 in Diamond Bar in Southern California. And that abduction kind of kicked my head into gear, remembering all these other things that happened. And then I started talking to family members, one who's had some paranormal experiences and the other 7 or 8 have not. But it brought me some interesting stories from when I was a kid about plane crash that happened, and we had to ditch our plane. I was just a baby in my mom's lap. We hit something that almost tore the rudder off the plane. The story is in the book, Into the Great Abyss. But it went from there. So I saw, when I was little, I remember laying on a bed in northern Illinois in our farmhouse. And I couldn't have been very old. I don't think maybe more than a year old, maybe a year and a half. And just seeing this creepy face coming towards me and a hand coming towards me. And it was not, a human white face. It was dark gray and really big black eyes. So I couldn't have been more than maybe 1.5 years old when that happened. And stranger things occurred from then on. And yes, I had a father who worked at, White Sands Missile Range, and he was not military, but he did have a clearance. I don't know how high the clearance was. I married a man in the Air Force, and he spent 20 years in the Air Force, and now he works for those big, companies, aerospace.
That's interesting. I have a friend, a very close friend of mine, okay, up this way, who was abducted when she was a kid. You probably have heard this story before. Many a times in Ohio, and then she moved because her father was a Air Force guy. I don't think too high up. I just think a regular Air Force pilot, from what I can tell. And she was abducted where she moved to in the Bridgewater Triangle. And she has Black Ops helicopters flying all over her house constantly up in Maine. And she goes to the fact of the matter is, I interviewed her on another show of mine, because I've had a few different shows through the years. She even talks about being impregnated and losing the child and seeing the child today. If you ever want to catch that whole story, you can catch it on Monsters and Mysteries of America. I think it's called Haunted Woods. It's when they did the Bridgewater Triangle. Her story's on that.
Oh, cool. I'll have to check that out.
Check that one out. But I find it interesting that a lot of these are, I don't want to use the slang term, but children of military. I was going to use the word military brats, but I didn't want to do that.
Right. Well, you know the renowned researcher, Linda Moulton Howe. She and I have had discussions about that very thing. It almost always seems to be centered around a military family. But again, my father was not in the military. He just worked at White Sands Missile Range. This was 1970. Oh my gosh, probably 72. And then for 2 years, and then we moved a lot. He always went where the work was. And then we came back to El Paso, Texas, and he worked there again. Very interesting. But no, I mean, I don't even know. I remember him having a badge, but I don't remember what level of clearance it was. But I do recall a conversation with one of my older brothers a couple of years ago saying that my father used to brag, because this was during the time when you had the gas prices were horrendous. And he would carpool with people to get to White Sands. And in my book, I put, my brother told me they made it like in 20 minutes. And I'm thinking, how do you make it from the front point of Franklin Mountain, which I still remember the name of the mountain, all the way around it to the back, all the way up 25 to get off to the exit that takes you to White Sands Missile Range in 20 minutes? How is that possible? So that's a big mystery for me.
That's easily solved. Might not even be UFO-like. It could have been a specially made car, too.
I suppose. Or it could be an underground maglev train. I mean, I've heard so many stories about that, and there probably is one that goes from White Sands to, all over the place.
There probably is, because they use a lot of...
Yeah.
They use a lot of what is called civilian contractors.
Yes, lots of them.
Lots of them, yeah. I have a friend of mine that works for a civilian company that oversees the military, more or less.
Right.
What is the implied connection between military families and extraterrestrials? Why would they focus on members of military families?
That's a good question. And I all I can say is that I think it has something to do with the ease of accessibility to these people. And you've got your military members who've signed on a dotted line, pretty much for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And it may be something that, the old treaty was, hey, we've got the military guys and we're going to take some of their kids or some of their wives and do this and that, but you can have our technology. I mean, that's just my guess, but it does. It seems to figure centrally around military.
I think it's
and
more
military
than a guess.
bases.
I think you're accurate. Yeah, I think you're totally accurate on that, to be honest with you, from different people I've spoken to.
Yeah.
And every time you have a triangle of sorts, okay, the Bridgewater Triangle, any of those bigger ones, even the smaller ones down in Texas that nobody hears about, or Pennsylvania, there's always three things going. There's UFO, there's paranormal, there's cryptid, okay, in all of those. But there's always underground water some type of underground energy source, whether they're volcanic mountains or not. And guess what the third thing is?
Mm-hmm.
Military bases.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a coincidence. Where I come from, coincidences don't show.
I don't think there's many coincidences out there, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I can see the relationship to a military base. That makes a lot of logical sense. I'm not sure why they're abducting members of a military family, though. Are they hoping to gain information that they don't have, Tom? I mean,
that's a possibility.
That is a strong possibility because you listen to her story.
If you abduct an Air Force colonel or an Air Force captain or somebody like that, or even an astronaut, for example, they would have some very high level information that nobody else might know. But I'm not sure, Kay, that by abducting a family member, they would get the same thing. So I guess the question to you is, when you've been abducted, do you have a recollection of the questions or the communications that they're asking you?
That's an interesting question. So I don't get asked anything. I get told to sit. I get told to lay here or move or stand over here. And everything that's happened with me has been, as I put in the book, it's not a kumbaya experience for me. Everything has been very scary, frightening. There's a lot of poking and prodding going on. I've been used, abused, marks on the body. There are no questions. There is just only this tall gray being telling me in thought transference, forcing it into my head, this is what's happening. You do this, and then we let you go. And it is really very much like being somebody's lab rabbit in a cage or whatever animal you want to choose. It's harrowing. And it doesn't stop. This has been ongoing now. I'm actually going to be moving out of the place we live in because I want it to stop. Yeah. And it hasn't stopped. And the other evening, and I'll put this in the book that I'm working on, I had another abduction experience. It was very bizarre. And I was told, I tried to ask about the drones over there on the East Coast. And tell me what's going on with that. And all I got was preparation. That was the only thought that was transmitted to me. Preparation.
Wow. So it kind of ties to at least some theories out there that they're preparing to, at least I've heard some of this scenario, that they're preparing to make contact, but on a large scale, not on a one-on-one scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That is possible. Now, what way they're planning, I don't know. I've understood that there's more ships coming. I've understood that there's larger ships coming. I've had strange downloads in the morning where I see all these different symbols only for a brief couple of seconds, and then it's gone. I had a bunch of flashing behind my eyes the other night after this abduction thing where it was making a tweak to my head or whatever is in my head that is causing me the pain in my left eye.
Wow.
And it's weird. I can't even wrap my head around it, but my left eye hurts. It's red. And all I saw with my eyes closed was all this bursting and flashing of bombs, explosions, whatever you want to call it, going off, and a few crafts. And this was with my eyes closed, and it was so bright. And I'm not a channeler. I'm not a remote viewer, although I do believe that some of this kind of stuff can wake up this, what do you call it, latent muscle in our head that is able to do this. I think these paranormal experiences of any type can wake this stuff up because of what's happened to me.
Do you get any kind of pre-warning that you're going to be abducted? Is there I mean, is there any
most
kind
of the time.
Physical change, metabolical change that you feel before you're abducted, or does it just happen?
Right. So what happens is, and if you've read the book, you understand that I'm not being taken out the front door or the back door physically. Right. I'm being, the vibration comes over my head, goes through my body. It feels sometimes like my body's ripping apart. Sometimes I can't feel that at all. And then I am on a craft. I am just broken down and put on a craft, and I'm reintegrated the same way back in my bedroom or my guest bedroom or my office or wherever it is. So it is very strange. And I think they've upped their game, because I think what was being done to me the other night is whatever little device I have in my head, and I'm pretty sure it is right on the optic nerve in my brain here, that they were messing with it. And that's why I saw possibly all those flashes and stuff. And then was put back. And I could only ask the one thing about the drones, and all I got was preparation and more ships coming, and that was it. It's very cryptic. And this tall gray is definitely the one behind me being taken, although I don't know if he's actually running the show. I think there's a mantid being that's in my book that is actually running the show, and that is the one that is responsible for the hybridization program and my abuse in that department. And I've seen a hybrid gray, human, little girl, a couple times on the craft, once in one of my strange cosmic zone remote viewing type of things. And then also I've held a hybrid baby. And that was freaky, let me tell you. That'll be in my next book. So yeah, that was totally bizarre. And I have no idea, no clue as to whose that was. I can speculate, but I don't like to.
Right,
I don't.
Right. Other abductees that we've had on the Paranormal Zone, one in particular has told us that he doesn't think that he's being abducted physically, but he's being abducted telepathically. So that his being, as you and I know it, stays in one place, but his mind is being abducted.
And that is very possible.
So you might subscribe.
But the only thing I have to prove are the marks on my body.
Now, have you ever thought? I know this. Yeah, this is just for your information only, obviously. Yeah. But you ever thought maybe putting a camera in when you think it's going to happen and see if you can't catch something in your room or something?
We put a Ring camera in my guest bedroom and our master bedroom and my office for a year. And the only thing the Ring camera caught upstairs in the guest bedroom was a small ball of light.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was it. Nothing else is. But this technology that they have, if they can knock out, engines, batteries on cars and lights go out and everything, right. I'm pretty sure they can probably knock out the Ring cameras too when they come around. That's just my guess. That's why nobody's probably been able to get this. Sure. They're smart.
The other thing that we've heard a lot of,
something. Bob, hold on one second. Yep. Something just crossed my head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a paranormal investigator, as Bob knows, for over 20 years. Okay, and I've had some odd cases in my life. I've done Bigfoot, UFO stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talked about, and you brought up a good point, and all these people are bringing up the same point. You had a doorbell camera, a Ring camera. That's pretty modern, correct? I mean, they've only been out the last maybe 5 years, if we're lucky, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we put an older camera that might not be able to manipulate themselves, them being able to manipulate it, and run that, instead of using high technology. I'm wondering if we take, I don't know, I'm going to age myself, okay? If I do, I'm sorry, okay? Maybe an old VCR one, that you can get at the secondhand store. Or let's go further before I was born, even though I'm 84 years old, and let's find, and I got one, because I collect cameras, the famous, and I'm going to use this just as this is a non-political show, but I don't know the name of the camera, so that's why I'm going to do this, okay? The one that the famous Saputo films were taken off of, okay? And for people who aren't listening, that was a JFK assassination.
Right.
Yes.
From the 60s, one of those cameras. I'm wondering if we use lower cameras, okay? Because in the paranormal, and this is going to be real brief, some of these teams have the highest of technology. I have the oldest of technology. And there were certain times where people had been right in front of me with their super high technology. And I had my little camera that has the little tape recorder going inside, the little DVD, the mini DVR. And I catch an orb, and they catch nothing. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe we should use older technology, like a reel-to-reel system, or keep a tape recorder running. And if you have to get up for something in the middle of the night, just change over and flip the tape over. You could keep using the tape forever, and just run that for on the night you think something. I'm wondering if we have to. If they do control our technology, if we have to go old school. And, it's been, let's look at a movie, for example. What was it called? Independence Day. They turned our satellites against us.
Yeah.
How did we beat them? By the undercarriage. They used their major weapon and it got destroyed. But how did they get the technology? How did they counteract a worldwide response? They used what? Anybody remember?
No.
What we used in World War II. Oh God, you tapped the thing. Morse code.
Oh, Morse code.
They used Morse code. Yes, they used Morse code, and obviously it's a movie, but obviously the alien invaders never picked it up, and we actually had a worldwide response to it. And obviously at the end of the movie, we always win.
That's true.
I mean, I'm starting to wonder.
Morse code is low tech.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we start using low tech stuff. I know my team, when they listen to this later on tonight, will want to strangle me, but that's all right.
Low tech? You want to carry all that stuff around?
I do. My video system is an old VCR camera tapes with 3,000 feet of cordage and 8 TVs that I carry in. So let's go back to UFOs. Wow. But what I'm saying is, I'm wondering if we start with the low tech stuff.
Maybe.
Well, I think it's worth trying for sure. Kay, another thing that we hear, and it's obviously a question on everyone's mind. In the case of an abductee that has a significant other, the partner doesn't seem to know, in many cases, that this individual was abducted. And it seems to be we've heard from anywhere from that the person was gone an hour to 4 hours. And yet the significant other didn't know they were gone.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly right. So when we moved into the house, and I did not put this in the book, I'll probably put it in the second one. It was only a few months after. We didn't have all the cameras in the back that we have now, or on the sides of the house or in the front, and yes, we do, for that very reason. But we did have the security system, an ADT security system, and it was late at night, and I know I set it, and I know I went to bed in our guest bedroom, and my husband got up for work the next day, and he usually unsets it, or, just takes the alarm off, and then goes to work because he goes early. And I got up from the guest bedroom, I was groggy, and I was in pain, and I went downstairs, and the system was off. I thought, okay, that's fine. He went to work. But he called me about 10 o'clock in the morning and said, hey, he goes, what's going on? The back door was unlocked. The patio sliding door was unlocked, and the system was off when I got up. He goes, did you go outside last night? And I was shocked. I went, no, of course I did not go outside. He said, yeah. He goes, the door was unlocked. The system was off. He goes, what were you doing? And I I have no idea. All I know is that that's what he said, and I know that I set the alarm. But I don't remember anything from that night. Not anything. So, I mean, I don't remember walking outside in the middle of the night. I'm not a sleepwalker. So very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Oh. But your husband didn't recognize or remember anything either, correct?
No. There is some technology going on here, like in Diamond Bar, when I was on the bed and that blue light was over me. It kept getting smaller and smaller and tighter till it was just over my chest. And of course, I had already seen the head down at the end of the bed, and then noticed the one on the side of me, by my right side of my head, near my pillow. And I was, of course, freaking out, but couldn't do much to help myself. And I think that beam, a couple of things. I think it probably scans us, sanitizes us for being taken, and also knocks the other person out in the bed so that they have no clue that what is going on. And he never has. Anytime I've been taken, he has never had a clue about it. And I've had mornings where I've just broken down and cried, and he doesn't understand until I tell him, and he'll say things, oh, okay, you had one of those nights. I'm like, yeah, John, I did. So,
by the way, Kay, that's very consistent with the abductees that we have talked about and talked to their spouses, that, because we do counsel abductees here in our project, but they have said the same thing that you just said, that it may be some sort of a suspension that they put the spouse in, that the spouse really it doesn't know what's going on and has no recollection of anything either. So it's pretty consistent with what we've heard.
Now, two things. One, your husband ever find a mark on him, just out of curiosity? You don't have to answer it if you don't want to.
No.
Okay.
No. He doesn't have a triangle on his thigh like I do.
All right.
That's been there for 3 years now.
The other question is, you said you're getting ready to move again.
Yeah.
You've been moved around a few times. You said that through your
lot.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, I've moved a lot.
And most of your moves, have they been always around military bases?
Well, no, that's just it. My father was an electrical engineer, so we just went where the work was. He got tired of a job. We moved on to another place, and I've been all over the place except, well, no, I've been on the East Coast too. I've been to Maryland. We lived there. But I mean, as a kid, by the time I was married, I think I had already moved 30 times. And then count in the Air Force marriage, and I'm up to 42. I think this next move will be my 42nd move.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. I'm a real good mover.
So somehow they have the ability through an implant or something to track you.
Yeah. They do. Correct. There's got to be an implant.
Now,
and I'm more convinced than ever of that now.
Okay. So have you ever lived in an area that would be considered a dead zone? Like, you said you lived in Maryland. We all know what's in Maryland. I mean, they got all the top military secret crap going on there, just like they do out in Roswell in that area.
Right.
And all that.
We were at Andrews Air Force Base.
Okay.
We were on the base. That's where we lived.
So, have you ever lived away from a base, like miles away from the military?
Well, only, let me think about that. Sure, when I was a kid, and we, lived in northern Illinois, and then, of course, we lived in El Paso, then we moved to Wisconsin, then we moved to Illinois, then we moved back to El Paso. Yeah, many times. But I think there's always a base somewhere around, except northern Illinois. I'm not too sure about that one, but I know El Paso had the Army fort right there. I can't think of the name of it. It's right there in El Paso. And then California, as in high school in the Bay Area, not so much. But being at George Air Force Base when it existed, and I've been to Edwards, been to, where else? Vandenberg, we lived there, Andrews, and I've been to, well, no, I haven't been to Whitman. I take that back. We never moved to Missouri, but I lived in Missouri. So I did live there for quite some time. And I had no Air Force base around me at the place I lived at that time. And that's when I was single.
So in your book, you describe that you've been abducted by Greys.
Yes.
And you gave us a little bit of a description a minute ago, but could you just for our listeners describe what a Grey looks like?
Yeah. So it's a small, spindly looking being. I mean, thin, long arms. The legs on the small ones aren't too long, but the arms are kind of long. They have about 4 fingers usually. I've heard descriptions where they have teal colored or blue colored, but these are definitely gray, but they're pale gray. They have big, black, almond shaped, classic looking eyes. They're shiny black, like wet, creepy. And then whether this is some covering over their eyes, I'm pretty sure these are the ones that are part biologic, not totally Zeta Gray, as I put it, because I know there is an actual Zeta Gray being, because they made these clones somewhere out of that mold, out of that being. But these things are creepy. They have the 4 fingers, and they're long, they're spindly. Their skin is if you manage to actually rub against and get someone to touch you, it's kind of like crocodile skin or alligator skin. There's a little bit of roughness to it. It's cold. Yeah. Their ships are cold. The tall Gray's craft is cold. It's not a pleasant experience being on those tables either. It's cold, and if they put something on you to try to warm you up, it's amazing. But that doesn't happen all the time. But yeah, the beings are just creepy, and they're short. They're maybe 3.5 to 5 feet. And the ones that I had experience in Diamond Bar seemed to be smaller than that, because the end of my bed was about 3 feet high where the footboard was. And I could just see maybe the eyes and 4 inches of that head. And it's a big head. It's the boldest looking, light bulb looking head. The small ones have a really pointed chin. Small, tiny slit for a mouth. I have no idea if it actually opens or closes, or if those things eat or anything. 2 little tiny holes for a nose, and I think there's a tiny hole on each side, but I don't know if that's an ear or what that is. All I know is that this is the servant to the tall Gray. Mm-hmm. Whenever I was taken, those are the ones that come take you. Yeah.
Did they exhibit age?
No, these things look almost exactly alike. There's no age, and they all have the same dark blue uniform that kind of seems to shimmer a little bit. It's almost black, and I can understand why, because it's easier to get the humans that way if they can't be seen in the dark. But the skin is definitely gray, ashy gray, pale, very, very creepy, and not something you want to see in the middle of the night. You don't want to see this thing. And then the taller Gray is the one that has the emotions and has the ability to do the thought transference. And he is 7.5 feet tall. He's pretty tall. My head comes up to his shoulder. But this tall Gray, and I'd never heard anybody else experience this before. Scientist, doctor, whatever he is, leader, he's got some sort of sash that comes down around. It's like a uniform. And I don't know if anybody's ever had that experience before, but there were definitely strange looking glyphs going down that ribbon or sash, and where there's a little black square, I'm going to call it a belt buckle because I don't know what else to call it, thing in the middle, of the uniform. The belt wraps around. And that's interesting, because like I said, I don't think I've ever heard that. I've always heard, they have these dark black uniforms, but no, this is actually a light, almost blue, and then when in certain light, it reflects kind of silvery. So yeah, but that is alive. I'm pretty sure the tall Gray is a definite live being, and when Linda and I have talked about this being, it's been that this is the originator species. These tall Grays, and I understand from thought transference that he is very old in our Earth terms.
Oh.
Eons.
And tell me, what kind of behavior do you experience with these Greys? Are they aggressive? Are they kind? Are they inquisitive?
No, these half are non-biologic robot-looking things are doing a job. Their job is to get the abductee to the craft, get them on the table, undress them, get them on the table, and stand by. And then when they're summoned by the doctor, the taller Gray, as the one that I've experienced, Rex, that is, they're immediately there once they're summoned, whether they're summoned with some sort of telepathic thought themselves from the taller being, I don't know. But they're just there to do a job. The cleanup, whatever, assist. But the actual physical stuff that I've had happen to me has been with the tall Gray and the manted being. Whereas I've been poked, prodded. Yeah.
So
strange.
Tom, we've asked this question of a lot of abductees that we've talked to, and it's always interesting because, Kay, what we're looking for, we're doing a study right now, and we're trying to determine similarities between abductions. We've probably identified anywhere from 8 to 12 similarities, and we're starting to track it. Albeit our base of numbers that we're looking at is pretty small. But when they examine you, when they put you on this table, what do you think they're looking at? Reproductive systems, aging, nerve systems? I mean, do you have any thoughts on what you think they're trying to find?
I kind of think it's a combination of all of the above. I think this tall Gray is looking for I don't know, maybe the right markers in the blood, something like that, because they do take a blood sample. They take everything. They look, in the nose, the eyes, and all of that, but they're not beyond stabbing you in the back with an injection needle, or attacking your arm with a strange machine over your chest, locking you down and putting something that stabs your arm in a circle. So it's not benevolent. I won't say there's any kind of warm, fuzzy feeling from this. This is my rights being violated completely as a human citizen and human being.
Common. That's very common. It's sad, but it's common.
Yeah, but I think they are looking for markers in the blood, something, then this person's going to make a good worker for us in the future, or we can make her do this or do that, or we're going to take this from her and make this new hybrid of a hybrid human being. Oh, Lord.
The other thing, it might even be as simple as they want hybrids here, and maybe, each life form from different planets, and I believe there's more than just Greys out there. I believe there's a lot more out there.
Yeah.
They have their own planetorial systems. And you have to wonder, is the Greys' planetorial system set up like ours? So if it isn't, and they want their people here, they're going to have to find a way to do it. And the best way to do it, I told you about my friends earlier, one of the women got pregnant, and she basically said, I haven't been with a guy in 9 months, 10 months, and all of a sudden she's pregnant.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and she's been
it's gone in about 90 days.
Right, in about 90 days, she woke up, blood all over the place, and the baby gone. You have to wonder if they're actually trying to get into the reproduction system so they can actually live on this planet.
I'm pretty sure I can say I don't. Yeah, I don't wonder. I know they are. I because of my experience with that manted being and the strange tubes, apparatuses to the right side when I was on that table and looking at what was floating in there. I don't even want to dare to guess, but that was definitely a gynecological procedure that was being performed on me. And That's why I said the whole hybrid thing blows my mind. To me, it's a little scary. To me, it sounds like infiltration of our planet. We're going to breed a new species as human and gray because we don't think you guys can handle your planet. Maybe that's what they're thinking, or they just want to take over. And, oh God.
Well, in your book, Kay, you talk about, you believe there's a message the Greys are trying to communicate through you, correct?
Yeah, well, with this thought transference, and it's been kind of cryptic, it's been, my husband, we had a ham radio on the roof, but because we're selling the house, he took it down, so it's not there anymore. I mean, we still have it. We could put it up at the new place if he wanted to. But that was supposed to be something that I was supposed to do. I'm supposed to know this message to get out and use the ham radio to get it out. And I'm not a ham radio person. I know nothing about that.
Yeah.
So hopefully they're not too mad at me for taking the ham radio down. Good Lord. But yeah. And then the other thing was the whole message the other night was, preparation and more ships. Now, you could take that any way you want to. You could say more drones are going to come and it's not them, or it could be preparation for a war over our heads, as my recurring dreams keep on happening. And that seems to be a big central focus in those recurring dreams, is this big ET war over our heads. It's very foreboding.
I guess my whole problem with the drones, and living on the East Coast, Tom and I have certainly been inundated with drones every day for about 2 months, I guess. And like life tends to do, we haven't heard about them for the last 2 weeks. But if these drones are from another universe, planet, however you define them, why would the military allow them to remain for months at a time? I mean,
and that's a good question. I talked to Linda.
It makes no sense, because if they were from another universe, why wouldn't our military, confront them? Because they have to then become a danger to America in general, don't they, Kay?
Yeah, and all over the world. These drones have been seen all over. Germany, Britain,
I get that.
Australia.
But it just makes no sense to me that the military wouldn't confront them.
Well, and that's where I talk about the ability of the Greys to be able to manipulate the minds of many people. And some of them, I think, are in some of the highest places, not just the Pentagon, but I'm talking about the Vatican. And they can do that very easily. I mean, that's a walk in the park for them to be able to manipulate somebody's mind in any direction they want to. So they could say they have people in the top ranking military positions and government contracting positions, and saying that, oh no, you can't shoot those down because that's them. And, we have no technology to beat them. If they can do that and they can put these things in the sky that can keep changing shape, I mean, I don't think that's us. I don't think we have the ability to do that at all.
Right.
It's just...
The other thing could very well be that they're in partners with high-ranking officials, let's say, and this is some sort of a collaborative effort with them and us.
Yeah. And it may be part of bringing the whole UFO disclosure movement forward by doing this, instead of admitting that they lied to us for years and years and years and decades and decades and decades. This is their new way to say, oh, hey, we've got visitors in the sky now, and kind of cover up their cover-up again.
Sure. Well, we know that history has told us that many presidents of the United States over the course of many years has talked about UFOs, came very close to announcing information, and then they were shut off. So there isn't any doubt in my mind, and Tom, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, but there isn't any doubt in my mind that we have made contact with people outside of this universe, beings outside of our universe, at a high level in government. I don't think any of us believe that's never happened. The debate comes down to what kind of communication and why. Right? That's what I think it's at.
Yeah, I buy into the whole, it had to have been a treaty of some kind that sold humanity out for this technology. Because we know they've back engineered these things. We know the government aerospace companies, many of them, the head honchos, aren't going to let go of these things in secret. And they probably don't have to. There's probably no law out there that says they have to release this information. We know that Lockheed made the TR-3B. We know it's up there. And but most military, and I know because we were on a military base and we had all kinds of flyovers and everything, they don't take their new technology and test it over a human population in an open place. You know, that part, I'm sure of, that they wouldn't do. So when you see these things over New Jersey or New York or Australia or Britain, and our Americas, we're not attacking them. Britain says they're going to attack them, I guess is what I understood the other night. But our military is not going to take these down. And you got to sit there and think, you know, okay, well, if they're not going to take them down, are they in cahoots with them? Or there's somebody up there that knows what these are, and then we can't fight them.
Right. Well, here's the other problem. When this hysteria hit the area here in New England with these, whatever they were, UFOs, drones, whatever they are. We had people coming on TV going, I'm going to shoot them down if I see one of them.
Right.
The government was not too thrilled with the public wanting to shoot them down.
No, but the public was saying that because the government wasn't doing anything about it.
Correct.
And I understand that fear. I mean, if I had a whole bunch of ships around me, other than if I hadn't had the experience I've had, I'd be grabbing my gun and shooting too. But because of the experiences I've had and knowing this, that, and the other, it's like, no, that's probably something you don't want to do. Right. Because they could probably vaporize you.
Now, we had drones being seen up and down the East Coast. Some of our own members caught them even at Hampton Beach, which isn't too far from where we are in Lawrence, Massachusetts right now. Did you have a lot of drones around your area at the same time?
Yes. So Christmas Eve, I went down to check on my horse. It was about 5:30 in the evening. It was getting dark. And I noticed a lot of activity in the sky. And the news won't report it. I reported it to the news. They wouldn't report a dang thing. So I don't know what's going on. But there was at least 18 crafts in the sky. And yeah, Denver Airport is out here. But we never, ever have that much traffic coming in or out of Denver. And it wasn't under their flight path. There was 2 or 3 that were just hanging out in the sky, just blinking. So I drove all the way out east as far as I could, parked at an agricultural store parking lot, and sat there. I did not use my phone to take a video. I just simply watched for an hour and a half the sky. 2 of them were not too far away from each other, and you can't do that with planes. They were just sitting there. They weren't moving. They weren't going up and down. They were just hovering at about, 4,000 feet probably, blinking. And then at 7:05, promptly at 7:05 in the evening, this is Mountain Time, Colorado, they both just blanked right out of existence. They didn't drop, they didn't fly, they didn't go anywhere. They just gone. So either that's some holographic projection, and man, I can't think of how much money it would cost to pull something like that off. I don't think our government would do that. That sounds pretty far-fetched. But I mean, they blinked out at the same time. It was the most, and then I went back home. But that night, before I went out there, I had stood against the barn, and I was, it was Christmas Eve, I was just trying to relax, and I looked up at the sky, and I saw 6 round orbs, crafts high up, just shot right over my head. And I kept looking, and then there was another group of 6 more, and then another group of 6 more. And for me, this is not uncommon. I go outside and I can see something from my backyard at night because I can't sleep or I get the tone in my ear. And it's like, oh, great. But I mean, this was weird because it was 6 and then 6 and then 6. And they just shot super fast right across the sky. Not meteors. They didn't have any glowing tails or anything like that. And they weren't burning. But I'm just sitting there going, oh, my God. And that's why I went out east. I was like, I've got to sit and look at this. What is going on tonight? And it was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. And I have one video of a couple of things in the sky that night. And I have another video of a strange thing I saw over my neighborhood. And then again, one at the ranch on December 30th. That's really bizarre. And you guys have probably seen this with other people. But you take the video of whatever's up there. It's bright and it's just hanging out. It's not a star. And you see it moving slowly. And then when you zoom in on it, it's got these edges on it that are incredible. I mean, it looks like something very intricately laced. That is not a planet. I don't know what that is. But I got it in yellow, green, and pink.
Oh, that is very interesting, actually.
Isn't that bizarre? Yeah. And I sent those to Linda Moulton Howe for her to look at. And she's very busy, and I don't know if we're going to get to do another podcast or anything, because once we move out of here, and it won't be long, it'll be like the 20th of February, we're going to be under Starlink for internet. And I don't know how well that's going to go. So if anybody wants me to do a podcast,
Starlink
it's got to be now. Yeah.
Starlink works great. I know people who use Starlink.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear because, we're like going, we need high-speed internet. How is Starlink going to work? Yeah. Sorry, Musk.
People live off of Starlink all the time.
That's good.
If you want to see how it works, if you're on Facebook at all, go to Reels.
Oh, yeah.
And look at the people who live in campus and stuff. They just travel around. Converted vans and stuff, and they do different things on the computer to make money. They use Starlink all the time.
They're using Starlink. Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. Okay, cool. Very cool.
What's it called? Van lifers.
Van lifers.
Yeah, they use Starlink. Most of those guys either use Starlink or hotspots.
Okay, cool.
Now, I know earlier you talked a little bit about the family. Now, you don't have to answer this question. How many other family members, either on, and this is important now, any on your mom's side or your dad's side have had contact, or do you know?
I can't give you that answer because my father passed away in 2013. My mother, we just buried her in October along with my husband's mother.
Oh,
both of them died within 6 months of each other. It's all right. It's dementia. Dementia's horrible.
Yeah.
But because of that, before my mother sunk to bad dementia, I was just talking to her about all my experiences and what happened in Diamond Bar and what was going on with me. And I had to ask her, did you have any experiences like this? And she said, I've always wondered. And then I gave her the book by Lieutenant Philip Corso, the day after, right? So she was starting to read his book, but then her eye vision went bad and she couldn't finish the book. So we never got any further than that one conversation. So I was going to ask her things like, well, did Grandma have any experiences or did Grandpa, But as far as my immediate family goes, I have one brother who's had some strange experiences, but his are more of the ghostly kind. And he's going to incorporate that into his book.
That's interesting. And the reason why I asked you that...
Tell you about a book. You wrote a fascinating book.
Thank you.
In the Eyes of the Greys, which is your story about your abductions. Tell our listeners a little bit about your book and especially where they can buy it.
Oh, yeah. The book is available on Amazon.com. You can read it through Kindle, or you can just purchase the hardcover or the paperback. I'm going to do an audio book once we get settled at the new place. And that'll be a few months down the road. And then the second book should be coming out in about 7 or 8 months. I have a little bit of a problem at the moment with my computer. So that'll be a little bit further down the road. But the book is just something that I had to do. I couldn't stand it anymore. It was very imperative that I get it done, that I get the information out to the people who need to know it, the people who are abductees, the people that are dealing with something they don't know how to explain, and they don't know how to deal with it, because it makes you angry, it makes you scared, and in my case, it makes me very scared. I don't like any of this. If I had the experience that other people have said, oh, it was benevolent, it was really nice, they laid down with me, they talked to me, I'm going, what? This is not what's happening to me.
Now, those people you spoke to, were they abducted by Greys or reptilians or something different?
I was told they were Greys, but they also, some of them have said they've been taken to these, and this has not happened to me, but they've been taken through these military abductions. Blows my mind. I honestly didn't realize that that's what our people did to us. But they said they were, and then they said their experience with other Greys have been, benevolent. But then when I asked them, well, what did your Grey look like? Well, it looks like this. Well, that's not what mine looks like. I've got a really creepy couple of photos that I sent to Linda Moulton Howe, and she's looking at them. And I got them off of Facebook. I don't remember where I got them, who I got them from, or if they were sent to me, but I have them. And they are extraordinarily creepy. And I had to ask Linda, have you ever seen these before? I mean, you've been a researcher for years and years and years and years. And she said, no, she's never seen those pictures before. And they are just really, really creepy. And then I think of Project Serpo, which is the military that went all the way to their planet, Serpo, and strange things happened there. If you guys haven't heard that, I highly recommend at least looking into that one. She thinks it's true. I kind of have to agree. Everything that I've seen in paperwork and Blue Planet Project and a whole bunch of other older papers, documents and stuff, it seems to go hand in hand with all of it. With Psalm 101, with magic, MJ12 documents. It's hard for me to dismiss any of that after going through what I've gone through. But the book is all about contact. It's all about if you're having a nightmare and you have continuous nightmares, or you think they're nightmares, maybe they're not nightmares, check yourself out. If you've got marks on your body, or if you're feeling like, you're sick to your stomach, or you have a nosebleed, all of a sudden it's unexplainable, you might want to think about the fact that you've just made contact.
So, Kate, on the Paranormal Zone, we offer our guests and our listeners a procedure that you'll have an option to apply. If our guests have questions and would like to communicate with you, what we can do for you is have them send an email to paranormalnh@yahoo.com, and we kind of filter through that for you and send you the ones that you may want to see. Or the other option is some of our guests prefer to deal with our listeners direct. Which way would you like us to do it for you?
Well, right now, because of the moving situation, if you could filter them, that would be really great.
Okay, so we're going to tell our listeners a couple things here. If they want to ask you questions or communicate with you or have a story they would like to tell you, they can send it to paranormalnh@yahoo.com, and we will forward it on to you with some sort of a pre-arrangement we can work out. I encourage our listeners to buy this book. This is one of the better books out there today. It's factual. And if you have ever had an experience by reading this book, I think it's going to help you a lot to understand maybe what you don't get right now. I think you've done a great job with this book, by the way. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an excellent book. I recommend going to Amazon or wherever right tomorrow morning and buy this book. So this has just been fascinating, and it's interesting to me how people like you go through these things pretty much by yourself, other than your spouse, and I'm sure that your spouse is a very supportive person. But it's such a difficult thing, and none of us, myself or Tom, really have a great understanding of what you're going through. So you're a very brave person, and to come out and tell your story is just amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I want to thank you for coming on, too. This is a great show. We're going to have you back. We've come to the end of the show, Bob, already. Oof.
I know we have. Yeah,
so,
fast. We got to have Kay back on when her second book rolls out.
We need to have her back before her second book rolls out, actually.
All right, that works.
There was a lot of great information given out tonight. Thank you very much, Kay, for, and I know this was
you're welcome.
tough. This isn't easy. The book wasn't easy to write. Book 2 is probably not going to be easy to write. But your strength will give strength to others that are going through the same stuff that you go through every day.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming on. And I want to thank all our listeners across the global United States, the international dateline, and over the big ocean or the big lake. I want to thank everybody. Yeah, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Paranormal Zone. And we have quite the guest lineup for the next couple weeks. So keep us tuned in. Check out our old episodes on Spreaker through Lawrence Community Access TV's YouTube page, too. This is our 48th episode, are going to be downloaded tonight. So check us out. Check out all our old shows. And Bob, thank you very much. And thank you very much. And everybody have a good night.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Good night.